Hey guys, what's going on? Ez, Matt.
What's up?
Back with a video here. We are going to be covering a theory. Fan theory that's running out there, running rampant. Is Snoke the Last Jedi?
Yes.
Yes. No. Is he? We don't know. Okay, we found... Matt actually brought this to my attention today.
It's a Reddit post we found.
Yeah, Reddit post, and we're going to read it just to kind of start. We'll put a link down below so you guys can go to it and check it out. But it's kind of neat. So we'll read it to start, and then we're going to kind of discuss. Does that say Anakin Kardashian? Is that the username?
That's his username.
Are you kidding me? Okay, all right. Snoke is the Last Jedi. It was pretty cool how we saw Jedha in Rogue One, but there was also, or was there a strategic reason? What if we were supposed to get in the mindset that the Jedi Order is very, very ancient? In one of the most recent Star Wars novels, Palpatine sends someone to Jakku to uncover an ancient secret. In The Force Awakens, we see that Luke is looking for the original Jedi Temple. What's with the sudden obsession with Jedi history? In The Force Awakens novel, Snoke reveals that he is very old, but we don't know how ancient he is. Kylo Ren's lightsaber is confirmed to be an ancient version of the lightsaber.
Force saber.
Yeah, Force saber, yeah. Where did he get it? Snoke. Now, keep in mind the title of Episode 8, The Last Jedi. What if we are learning about early Jedi because we are going to find out how different the ancient Jedi Order is? What if what we know as Jedi are not really Jedi after all? What if Snoke is the last Jedi in its original form? It makes sense that we are learning about early Jedi. It makes sense that Kylo Ren has his ancient version of the weapon. It makes sense that Luke went to look for the original Jedi Temple in order to learn about Snoke. There we go. Stumbled through it, but there we go. So thoughts on that, Matt? I mean,
it's interesting.
He brings up a couple, 2 to 3 good points.
For me, the thing is, like, it would be sweet because then it would tie in, like, the Old Republic.
Yeah.
Which is something, once Disney bought Star Wars and they kind of got rid of a lot of the other canon.
Yeah.
The Old Republic has still kind of been, like, this staple of... Mm-hmm. They haven't necessarily confirmed or denied, so it would tie in the Old Republic, which would be huge.
That would be huge. Yeah, and so one of the things that I thought was interesting, they talk about, he brings up Jedha and how, there's this tie to ancient Jedi temples. For the first time, we're actually looking at, we have a Jedi temple, we have the temple in Coruscant in our prequels, but then we didn't have anything like that in 4, 5, or 6, and then now, in 7, we're seeking the last Jedi temple, according to Han Solo. So, kind of cool that we're getting into the origins of Jedi and Sith, and Jedha, he's right, does sort of get us to sort of focus on that.
In 4, 5, and 6, and 1, 2, and 3, like, they're never ever really focused on, like, relics as, like, a thing.
Right.
But, like, in the extended universe, it becomes a huge deal. Like, all these old relics, these old ancient powers. Mm-hmm. It's never really talked about in 1 through 6.
Yeah.
But, as we know, Star Wars draws upon a lot of, like, historical things, and they use a lot of, like, religious aspects to, like, tie things in. And, like, that's, like, the Crusades. That was, like, big deal. Like, they're seeking, like, the cross and things like that. As, like, these, these icons. And so now in Episode 7, like, we see, like, 2 relics. We see Luke's lightsaber, or Anakin's lightsaber, and Darth Vader's mask.
Right. Yes.
So it does seem like they're at least going to try and go down that route.
Yeah. And one thing, I'm going to get to two things here with this. He talks about the scene, and I think it's Aftermath, the book, where they're on Jakku, and Palpatine, it seems, is looking for something, digging for something there. What is he looking for? You almost have, like, Palpatine on this quest to find, like, the origins of the Sith, or maybe just, like, the Force itself. He was always sort of searching on the Outer Rim and looking beyond that galaxy. And then now you've got Luke searching for the original temple. So there's this seeking that's going on, which is really cool. So in that they're seeking, maybe they did find a fallen Jedi, which is a thing back in the old canon, that these Jedi had either fallen or just that he was of the original, Jedi Order back then, and he has somehow been preserved on Jakku, or who knows where.
Or at least he has, or at least like somehow maybe Snoke has ties to that old power and
we were talking. Yeah, he has ties to it, but also he has the knowledge, so we can see the building of the lightsaber. And we saw in Rebels when Ezra goes to the old Sith temple and he's got the holocron and I believe he finds this lightsaber and he looks at it, and we looked at a picture today, and it's got the green. And it's the same make, or what do you call it, like structure or whatever as Kylo's. And where would Kylo have learned how to make that? Not from Luke.
Yeah,
Luke did. I mean, I don't think that was the lightsaber he was using when. That Force saber. When he was with Luke, I think that's something he learned from Snoke. So Snoke seems to have a tie to some ancient knowledge. So that does make a lot of sense. And even I'm not sure if he's the last Jedi.
And who knows? Who knows? Maybe Luke's current lightsaber, as we assume he still has it, his green one that he builds on his own, completely off screen in Episode 6.
Yeah.
Like maybe that will be a plot device. Like maybe they'll say something about it. We don't know. I mean, it's an item that's out there. That could become something.
True. Yeah, true. So, I mean...
But back to Snoke, I suppose.
Yeah. But, I mean, and just thinking about, is he the last Jedi? That would be a lot of... I like this, and it's cool, and he's right that they're kind of guiding us towards some of what you said at the beginning. The old Republic sort of stuff, the old Republic video games, and...
Stuff like that,
And stuff like that. But I just think for your...
It'd be your casual viewer. You'd really have to, like... I mean, you'd almost be spending the next 2 movies, like, pushing this huge idea.
Yeah. And I just don't know that people are going to be doing... like.
It's certainly interesting, and I think some of the things he says, like I do think relics are going to be an important thing. Because it seems like they've at least introduced... or made reference to 2 of these items being something more than just an item. Like, this is the first time we see, like... I mean, other than the significance of the blue lightsaber, like, oh, this was your father's in Episode 4.
Right.
Like, I mean, when Rey picks it up in Episode 7, it's like Force, like, explosion.
Right.
And so, like, it's the first time we've seen, like, oh, there is some sort of power involved in this, just outside of it being a weapon.
Yeah, and the Kyber crystals being a part of the lightsaber and all that, the being sort of this tool to harness the Force. One more thing, though, did you go back to the lightsaber? This guy's sort of saying that, like, Snoke is privy to some of this ancient knowledge or what have you, but it seems like, if you look at Rebels, I mean, if you go just off of that one episode where Ezra finds that old lightsaber, it's a Sith temple that they're at, so it's like, is he an ancient Sith? I mean, that almost sort of seems to say that, like, is he, or was it something before, the Jedi or the Sith? You know what I mean? Something that was there before they sort of...
And that's something else they could tie in, too, because, I mean... Now we're at this point where it's like, it's like, which came first, the chicken or the egg? Has there always been Jedi and Sith? Yeah. Or did the Sith evolve from Jedi?
Right, yes.
You know what I mean? Yeah. Almost kind of like the Knights of Ren are evolving from Luke's Jedi Order.
Yeah.
They're becoming something, they're like an offshoot.
Yeah. So, I mean, to put this sort of to rest, is he the last Jedi? I just think it's a big stretch. What do you think? I mean,
yeah. He could be, as if they have some plan for it. I mean, all indications certainly seem to point to Luke. I mean, there's several references to him. Yeah. You and Mike talked about that in the other video.
Yeah, we did. And then you also were mentioning, he's in the scroll. Yoda refers to him as, "When gone am I, last of the Jedi will you be." Yeah. I mean, what else? There's so many references to him being the last Jedi.
Snoke specifically mentions him as the last Jedi in Episode 7.
Right. And I still think there's some plural meaning.
And we'll see more about that when the movie comes out. It's kind of it's difficult to explain. Although I do think it's interesting that people kind of found on the just like we put him together, The Force Awakens, The Last Jedi.
Yeah, that was
and whatever that means.
Yeah,
if it means anything.
And if it does mean something, honestly, if you looked at that and you said, does it mean anything, you'd lean towards it being Rey who was awoken, or Luke,
R2-D2 literally
was over. Yeah, the only person who actually awoke in Episode 7.
Maybe Jar Jar Binks is still out there.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So to move on beyond that, it's awesome. It was cool and it stimulated a lot of conversation among us. But now we're going to jump into who actually is Snoke. Who do we think and who do we want to theorize is Snoke? And we're going to kind of go through what we've done some research on. Just
a lot of
these are not
these are not necessarily our predictions. We just found a lot of people making references to them. Some have certainly some plausibility.
Yeah.
Some are pretty ridiculous.
Some are ridiculous.
Yeah.
Some are absolutely ridiculous. But
one I think is 100% true, and we'll get to that one last.
Yes.
Or maybe second. Well, you'll hear about it. Yeah.
So to start with The Last Jedi, we went through that and sort of shared our ideas. Is he this ancient Jedi?
For sure.
And, possibly could be. I think that'd be kind of neat, but we just got into talking about that. So the other one, there's an image out there. I mean, we'll find it and throw it up there of, like, Darth Vader when he takes off his mask.
Yeah.
Right? He takes off, he's got that sort of...
In
like
episode
that.
6, when he takes off his mask, his scars are almost, like, identical to where Snoke's are.
Right.
But... we see Darth Vader die and
burned.
Yeah,
he comes back as a Force ghost.
Yeah, and it would just also make no sense that like Kylo Ren is trying to go to the dark side and he's using like Anakin has a presence in Episode 7.
Mm-hmm.
This kind of thing that Kylo Ren is using to say like I'm trying to go to the dark side, and then like also have Snoke saying you should do it too. It seems like
that makes sense.
Yeah, if anything, I think the idea of Anakin will bring Kylo Ren towards the light side. I mean, that was Anakin's story.
Exactly. Once he learns, I don't think he actually even got a chance to learn that Anakin eventually, or Darth Vader, turned into
the only person who I think knows is Luke.
Yeah, I don't think they ever talked about it or shared it, so that's a whole other video. But,
if more people knew, then, if you read this book...
Yeah.
If you read this book, then it would... Star Wars Bloodline, it would... if everybody knew Darth Vader went good at the end, it would...
Yeah, and they don't. So that's a good point in that book. Is that like you've got Leia, you've got Luke,
and she's trying to hide. Yeah, she's trying to hide.
She's trying to hide it. Yeah.
So
she would hid it from her own son. So
yeah.
The other thing we've got up here, and we just got a list of them to run through. This one's ridiculous. Matt actually saw this and sent it to me. Random Stormtrooper. All right, we'll flash a little.
Okay, that's the one is totally true. Yeah, the Stormtrooper in Episode 4 that hits his head.
Yeah.
Hits his head right here, and Snoke has a big scar on his helmet.
Confirmed. That is Snoke. It's sort of like the Wizard of Oz. There's this Stormtrooper who's like, I'm just screwing with Kylo.
No, it's a really funny picture we just found.
Yeah. So
I think a lot of people have probably seen it. But
yeah, it's kind of funny. The other one, and this one was ridiculous. We found this one today. Absolutely ridiculous. Boba Fett.
Yeah. No. Sorry.
No. It was ridiculous enough that they made 3 books in the old Legends series about him being like when in Jabba's palace.
He got out of the Sarlacc pit like 3 or 4 times.
Yeah, he got out of the...
Yeah. No.
So that would
I wouldn't be surprised if there is some tie to Boba Fett in these 3 movies.
Yeah, because
I bet he's not going to be Snoke.
No way. That was ridiculous. The other one next up on the list is Palpatine, Emperor Palpatine.
Yeah. See, the idea of Palpatine potentially having something to do with Rey seems far more plausible to me than the idea of Snoke. Although I wouldn't be surprised if they make it to where Palpatine didn't end up dying in Episode 6.
Yeah.
Darth Maul. If Darth Maul can survive that fall because everybody loves him, Palpatine's like a huge deal.
Yeah.
So again, I would not be surprised if there is. I definitely think there's going to be some Palpatine tie-in in the next 2 movies. But no, I do not think he's Snoke.
Yeah, no, I think Palpatine was involved in finding Snoke.
Yeah, maybe. There will definitely. I think he has some ties to Snoke, but I don't think he is Snoke.
Yeah,
I think the idea of like Palpatine learning how to reincarnate himself, which he kind of talks about with Plagueis.
Yeah.
Potentially even being Rey or something has more credibility than him as.
Yes. Yeah. I do too. I do too. There's a lot of tie-in between the two. Yeah. And Emperor's End is coming out February 20th or 21st, and we'll talk about that. There's a lot of the last battle of Jakku and Palpatine's last orders are there. I think that'll be kind of neat to dive into in a later video. But no, I don't think he's not actually Snoke, but he has some tie-in. Sure. One that's blowing up actually is the Snoke is Mace Windu. It's for some reason people.
I see the argument there. I see because like Mace Windu kind of is one. We don't know if he technically dies.
Yeah.
2, he'd have to be really old because Samuel Jackson is probably in his like 40s or 40s when they filmed that movie. Yeah. So say Mace Windu's in his 40s. I know Jedi can live longer through the Force.
Yeah.
But I mean, you're talking about like 60 years.
Yeah.
Like so he'd be like 100, which I guess Snoke could look like he's 100.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I mean, I see the argument in that like Mace Windu maybe felt betrayed because like Anakin kind of goes off.
Yeah.
But in all honesty, it's all Mace Windu's fault in the first place because Qui-Gon Jinn says, "Hey, I think there's a bad guy," and Mace Windu's like, "I don't know about that."
Yeah, I know. I'm not a fan of Mace Windu. People are gonna blow up on that, but I just,
I like him. I just.
Yeah, it's a couple epic lines. This party's over.
Yeah,
great,
I mean
but,
that's like his one line, but yeah, like
it's just. Yeah, I hope he survives. I mean, that'd be kind of cool if there is some sort of story or
for
comic book where
he
survived a little bit.
Yeah, him as Snoke just that's a stretch.
That's a big stretch. Yeah. So one that's not as big of a stretch that people don't know a lot about, but again, it goes back to our conversation about the Old Republic is Darth Bane.
Yeah, I don't really know a whole lot about this, but
yeah, and so Darth Bane was this Sith Lord who basically was the sole survivor of this big war between the Jedi and the Sith. And
this isn't in like Knights of the Old Republic 1 or 2, is it?
It goes back to that, yeah, and it's
Okay.
he's referenced in there as like he's like actually a Force ghost for the Sith in some of those and things.
Oh,
like that.
okay.
Yeah. So, anyways, he's very popular. Almost like people thought that he was immortal in a sense, but every time he shows up, it's through like a spirit or a Force ghost. It's never been like, in this form of what would be Snoke, like flesh and blood. I just don't. So, unless he's figured out how to do that. But then again, that's all that explaining that would go into talking about the old
Republic and
yeah,
trying to like
back.
trying to explain like what it is.
Just thinking that he's ancient and that he is possibly the last Jedi is a little overwhelming. You're sort of like, wow. I mean, there's so much story there in itself. But then to tie him directly to a character like Darth Bane, I just don't think.
Yeah, that's a real. I mean, like, really. I mean, the biggest. Well, keep going because we'll get to the one that's that's kind of a stretch.
Yeah. So next, and we've got these are our last two, and we put them in this order for a reason. A brand new character. So is he just brand new guy? JJ seems to hint that he's not a Sith Lord or Sith in any way.
Yeah, I mean, I think he is. I mean, he definitely is. I mean, he's obviously a new character. Mm-hmm. He's gonna have some sort of tie to someone.
Yeah,
because
mistake.
Yeah, because we need that tie to see why it's not just like the First Order. Like why the First Order needs the power of either Sith or Jedi.
Yeah,
they need the Force behind their cause.
Yeah.
And so. Yeah, go ahead.
Well, the only thing I was going to say is that, like, with that, where people might kind of punch back on the internet is you look at Palpatine, and I know where you're going with it, but in episodes 4, 5, and 6, we knew jack squat about Palpatine. You know what I mean? We knew that
he just shows up.
Yeah, and we just know he's this dark Sith Lord, and so it was so cool to go back in the prequels, figure out who he is, and see how close he was to Senator from Naboo, and you know what I mean? It was like he's right in front of the Jedi the whole time. We're like, you don't see that, So I think there's a backstory to Snoke where, remember when Leia says to Han, it was Snoke that seduced him? He must have been close to Kylo Ren in some regard. You know what I mean? He must have been. Was he someone that was in their day-to-day life?
I mean, maybe Luke, maybe Luke was like working, like not with him, but like, I mean, they're working like at opposite ends, like kind of like keep your enemies enemies close because like maybe they're both looking for this Jedi temple or something, and so Luke's like trying to get information. I mean, we'll see in episode 8.
Maybe they were competitors. That's a good point.
Yeah.
Maybe they were sort of like competitors, and like Luke is leaving on these different journeys and stuff, and so during that time, Ben is getting seduced sort of to the dark side or whatever. Because I'm like, when was he running into Snoke? I feel like Snoke would have had to been close to their practice and order in some way.
For sure.
If Luke is seeking out Force-sensitive people, and Snoke is that powerful, why would he not have known about him or been drawn to him? So I think we'll see that Snoke and Luke are a little bit closer to each other.
And a thing to remember is like, it's difficult to say because like so much of what we think of Luke is like, okay, we see the first 3 movies. A lot of it is like the extended universe, which they kind of like got rid of. People even still like kind of know like what he does. Mm-hmm. But like if you get rid of that, like Luke, what we see of Luke in 4, 5, and 6, he's kind of irrational.
Yeah.
Like so why wouldn't he like go like seek out even some like Dark Lord? I mean, he like flies to the he just like goes into the Death Star like, oh, I'm just gonna go like go save my dad and like or when he's with Yoda in episode 5, he's like, I need to save my friends.
Right.
Like he just met arguably the most powerful Jedi ever, and he's like, I don't have time for this. Like,
I gotta go. Yeah.
So
no, good point. That's a really good point. So I mean, there's a lot of he could just be this brand new character, and I think that might be most likely. But the one that's gotten the most sort of like traction around the internet,
and not just for Snoke, for other things as well.
Yeah, for lots of reasons. Is Darth Plagueis.
And even before episode 7 was even mentioned, Plagueis has been a huge deal.
Oh yeah, huge deal. Sort of.
Yeah.
Oh, I mean, it's a huge deal with the Jar Jar Binks.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, Jar Jar Binks definitely.
Oh my gosh.
So,
but yeah, is he Darth Plagueis? What do you think?
there's definitely see, again, it comes down to the idea of like Palpatine in episode 3 when it's like he's first really brought up. Plagueis is Palpatine's mentor. He learns the ability to like, or he's working on the ability to like save life or like project life into something. See, people have argued that Plagueis is Anakin's father.
Yes,
because like he could project. So that's a huge theory in its own. So the other, for Plagueis, for Snoke, maybe. So maybe he dies and he projects into this guy Snoke, and then it takes him a long time to really rise to power. Like maybe he's just sitting biding his time. So there is possibility. But Plagueis, honestly, there's so many possibilities because of just the nature of like the idea of creating life.
Yeah. Well,
but one last thing, the argument there also, it kind of goes back to Palpatine, because Palpatine says he never figured it out, or he never figured out he couldn't save himself.
Right. But we can learn it together.
But we can learn it together. And so the idea is like, well, maybe Palpatine created Anakin. This is going back to the Anakin thing.
Yes.
Again, this is an argument like Palpatine created Rey.
Right.
And again, maybe Palpatine created some Jedi, or maybe Palpatine takes over somebody who's even just Force sensitive.
Yeah.
Which I go, he's getting that power from Plagueis.
Right.
He takes over somebody who's Force sensitive, and it causes them to wither. I've seen this on the internet, which is why like Snoke is so jacked up. Yeah. So it's kind of like he's just projecting his body into somebody else.
Right. Yes. Good point. There's a couple things I want to point out here. I want to give credit first of all to my buddy Mike, who was one of the first people. Remember when we walked out of the theater and he was literally like, remember the music when Plagueis, like he walks in. And
he knew exactly it was the same thing.
It was the music from that, and he was sort of like, he's like, guys, I could be wrong, but like when Palpatine's talking to Anakin, he's like, the music that's playing there when they're talking about Darth Plagueis is the same music around Snoke. And I was just like, yeah, I think you're right. We went back and watched it a few times, and absolutely it was. So that was super. That's another sort of tie or parallel.
And it would tie up like one of the really open-ended, like loose ends in the prequel trilogy, because it's kind of like it's just referenced.
Right.
And like Star Wars, I will say, like, I mean, every movie, no matter how good it is, I mean, even Lord of the Rings, like, they have plot holes they just leave open. But Star Wars is pretty good about not leaving just plot holes open.
Right. There was actually, they did, and I'm not sure if it's still canon or not, but they did a book on Darth Plagueis. I think it's called Darth Plagueis. I have to double check. But, like, they talk about what maybe he looked like and who he was. And that alien creature, that race is very similar, right?
To Snoke, a lot of people have drawn conclusions that it's similar,
So like, I think it was the banking clan, right? It was the banking clan guys with the long faces and stuff, and that.
And like, and Plagueis uses like a staff, or he has something similar to like a lightsaber staff thing, and that's been a big argument for like Rey, because Rey has a staff.
Yeah.
So I definitely think there's, and Snoke also seems to kind of know who Rey is, so there's.
Yeah. Once he hears about her,
it almost seems like he kind of. So there's definitely some sort of tie there. So just kind of, we'll see.
Right. Yeah. So I mean, I kind of, if I had to lean towards one of those, I honestly lean towards Darth Plagueis or the brand new character. That's why we put him down there
for sure. And we'll see, and not to make this video run super long. I think we'll see. If we get this video up, we're filming it a couple days before the Super Bowl, and I would imagine there's going to be a Star Wars trailer in the Super Bowl. I don't think it's officially been said, but I would imagine so.
That would be awesome. So we'll see if there's anything in there. But for now, guys, that's it. We might go back and do a couple more videos specifically on some of these, because there's a lot more to the Darth Plagueis theory that we could break down and go into, and I'd like to do that at some point. But for now, leave us some comments down below. Let us know what you think. Do you agree, disagree? Thoughts on who the Last Jedi is and who is Snoke. So thanks so much. Please like, subscribe, stay tuned.
Thanks for watching.